Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is going to be a little different. We're going to do a ranking of the top 25 transfers of the summer. There isn't any Premier League this weekend, so there's not going to be any Premier League predictions. So this is an idea I came up with just to keep you guys entertained in the meantime, but here we go. These are the transfers. I think these are the top 25 transfers of the summer. I think I wanted to chose these 25 specifically because they seem to be the ones with the most hype, whether it be bad or good, but they seem to be the ones that have the most people talking about them. And the very first one that we have is Paulinho. I think he's probably going to rank I think he'll be between banger and very good. I think we'll go with banger. I think he's going to be a very good fit into this Bayern team. What they needed for a very long time has been this CDM-like destroyer, and Paulinho is just that. He wins so many tackles, very good on the ball, very good at doing some progressive passes, and I think that is something that they kind of needed. Kimmich isn't that same type of player. Kimmich is a little bit more technical than Paulinho, a little bit less aggressive and not as good defensively, but if they can incorporate both Paulinho and Kimmich into their new system, I think that'll be a very good fit for Bayern. Next player is going to be Solanke. Now, I think he'll be just solid. I think he is a good player. It's just he's only had really one good season, and his value jumped up to 70 million, 65 million, whatever it was. And I'm not exactly sure if he's actually worth that, but he's already missed a couple games for Spurs and the season barely started. So I think it'll take a while for him to get going. I think over time the transfer will start to make more sense. I think Spurs are definitely going to be using him. He's definitely an improvement to Richarlison, and having Son move out to the left wing is definitely better than having him down as the number 9. But for now, I just see it as a solid. Next is Dani Olmo going to Barcelona. I think, again, this is probably going to be a solid. On his debut, he scored for Barcelona, and I think I rate Dani Olmo very highly. It's just I don't know how this Barcelona team's going to work. I know with Flick coming on, things look a lot better now, like just tactically, and through the managerial side, it'll be big improvements to that of Xavi. But there's so many players in this Barcelona team that kind of take up the same positions. So I think he'll be very good. It's just I don't know how impactful he's going to be to this Barcelona team. Fourth is De Ligt. Now I think De Ligt is going to be a banger. That might be a little biased, as I'm wearing the United jersey, and just how Liverpool managed to pump United 3-0. But De Ligt looked very good in his debut. He looked like the best player on the pitch for United. And, I know that's not saying much, but he looked solid. He looked like he was going to be able to keep up with the pace of the Premier League. Liverpool has one of the best attacking lines in the Prem, and De Ligt, for the most part, did very well to handle them. De Ligt looks solid, and I think whatever improvements to that back line that United get is going to be massive. So I think De Ligt's already an improvement on Maguire. I think he'll partner Lisandro really well. And yeah, I think he belongs in banger for now. Now Mbappe, he automatically goes to banger. Real Madrid is probably the most dominant team already in the world, and they just added the best player in the world to that team, so I think he only goes in banger. The only worries is that how are they all going to be able to combine up top? Like in that one game, everybody saw that all three of them wanted to play in that left wing position, but you can't really go wrong with adding Mbappe to your team. So I think he's just an automatic banger. Now Diaby, him going to Al Ittihad, I think he's a good player, but just the transfer itself isn't good. He's a good player. He could have probably fought for his position in Aston Villa, but he wanted to move to Saudi. I'm assuming for the money, or whether it be any other purpose. Maybe he sees himself doing better there. He didn't enjoy his time at the Premier League, but as a transfer to Al Ittihad is very good. They got themselves a very good player, but in terms of the transfer of the player itself, I would probably put him flop because I just don't like seeing players go to Saudi this early in their career. But it is what it is. The Saudi league got themselves a good player, and that's how I'm ranking this. I'm ranking them based on how I think they will impact their teams, and I think Diaby is going to be an automatic improvement on whoever Al Ittihad have out on the wing. Another United transfer, we have Xerxes. I think Xerxes will be a solid addition to the United line. The only concern is that him and Højlund are both very young, and they're both going to want that starting position at striker. But Xerxes, from what I'm looking at, like he said, he's more of a 9.5. He's not really an out-and-out striker. Maybe it's just going to take time to mold into a good team, but Xerxes looks solid from what I've seen. He's very good technically. He's good at bringing in other players, but I think the player himself is good, and he's a good option for United to have. Next player is Douglas Luiz, and I think that's a banger. I think Juve did really good to get him. Aston Villa lost a big player, but Onana is proven to be just as good as Douglas Luiz. Onana already has 2 goals in the Premier League, and, well, I might as well just move him out. I think Onana is also... Actually, I'm going to move Douglas Luiz down to very good and have Onana right next to him very good. I think Douglas Luiz was a good business for Juventus, but Aston Villa did just as good in replacing him with Onana. And their play style might have changed a bit because Onana isn't as good going forward in terms of like technicability. And he's more of a powerhouse, like coming in, shooting off of set pieces, corners, free kicks, anything you can think of like that with like a dead ball. But I think he's good enough in his own way that he still has his Aston Villa doing pretty good. And Douglas Luiz, on the other hand, is just a very good addition to Juventus. That midfield very heavily needed some improvements, and I think he'll do good. He just hasn't gotten the chance yet, but I think he will come good. So for now, I have him very good because I know the type of player that Douglas Luiz is. Joao Felix, his second run at Chelsea. His first run wasn't bad. He just wasn't the striker that they needed, but I still don't think he's that type of player. And with the amount of players that Chelsea have, I don't see him having too much time in this Premier League team. I don't see this being any different from his previous stint, so he's going an A. The next player is Maatsen. Now, I think this is a very good deal. I think Aston Villa in general did really good in the transfer market, but getting him from an opponent in Chelsea and then only further increasing their squad depth is incredible business. Maatsen is a very good player. He's only going to be forcing more competition with Digne at Aston Villa. It's just a good sense of rotation. Maatsen is a good outlet to have out on the left side. He's very good going forward. He's decent enough defensively, and he has enough experience in other clubs. He made it to the final in Champions League with Dortmund, so that experience is very good, and he himself is a good player, so it's a very good transfer. Pedro Neto is one of those players that I think is severely underrated, but that may be due to the fact that he's always injured. If he could get a good run being uninjured, he'd be a very dangerous player on the wing. I think he's very good, very fast, good on the ball, can shoot with both feet. He's a good playmaker. I think he has all the aspects that a winger that would need in the Premier League. So for that, I have him as a very good transfer. The only reason I wouldn't have him as a banger is because I do think that left wing spot would be his to take. But it's just the injuries. I just don't think that he'll be able to stay fit the whole time. So I have him very good for now. Calafiori, I'm also going to go and I think we saw a good season from him in Bologna, and I think we saw good Euros from him as well, but that's about it. That's about as much as data we have for him to go off of. And with Timber coming back fully fit, I just don't think he's going to get much start time. And that left back position is starting to get full. They have Sinchenko, Calafiori, and Timber. And even Kiwior can fit in there as well. But I just think that he's not going to get the playing time that he wants. And only reason that he might get that playing time is going to come down to injury, I think. So I think it's a good surplus to have. So that's why I don't have him as flop, but I just don't think he's going to do that well in that team due to the playing time. And he's just never going to get a good run of form because he just won't be allowed to play that much. So he's a good backup to have, but that's only going off of 1 year of data. So for now, I'm going to go with Kilman going to West Ham is a very good deal. I think he's a very solid, and I think he is going to be a good addition to West Ham. I think he most likely is now the best center back. With Aguero leaving, I think that position is pretty much his. Yeah, it's just a good addition. They weakened another opposition, and they got themselves better. So I think that's a very good transfer for West Ham. Now, Reuter going to Brighton, it's a nifty one. I think he is a good player, and he's going to be a good addition to have to that team, but there's already so much competition in that Brighton team for that striker spot. You got Joao Pedro, you got Welbeck, you got Ferguson. Like, was there really a need to add another young player to compete for that spot when there's already so much there? It's kind of the same situation with Kagafouri at Arsenal. Like, there's so much competition that eventually one of them is going to be left out, and I just don't think it's going to be good for him to be fighting for that team when he could arguably be starting in every other team in some other league. I think, and for now, he nothing against him as a player. I just think the transfer itself is okay at best. So I don't think it's good enough to be marked into solid. Olise to Bayern, I think is a banger. I think Olise is a very good player. He has a lot going for him. He himself has that confidence about him. Like, he's very full of himself, but in a good way. He's arrogant, but he's able to back it up on the pitch. I think Olise is going to be a good addition to Bayern, and yeah, he's a good player. Bayern's an already dominant team, and I think he'll only improve at Bayern. Julian Alvarez, I think, is going to be solid. A lot of strikers at Atletico do well, but he reminds me more of a player like Joao Felix, who did struggle at Atletico, and so far into the season, he's 4 games in and has 0 goals and 0 assists, so I'm not exactly sure how well he'll do, but I do know there is a player there. I know the quality that he has based on what he did at City, but as of right now, I don't know how well he is going to be a fit to Atletico Madrid, so I think it's a solid transfer. The price also has a say in this. He went for a lot of money when he was, quote-unquote, a bench player for City, so I think solid's a good fit for him for now. He could prove me wrong. He could end up being one of the best transfers of the season because he has that quality, but I think solid is where I'm going to leave him for now. João Neves to PSG, I think, is another very good transfer. I think that PSG midfield is starting to look really good now. Depending on how they go with it, but they have the likes of Vitinha, they have João Neves, they have Fabian Ruiz, they have so many talented midfielders, and I think it's only a matter of time before they start clicking. He has a lot of potential. I would have taken him at United, but he had his eyes set on PSG, and I just think it's very good business from PSG. They didn't give in to that Benfica price tag that they had, and they got him for a lot cheaper, and good player, good team, good transfer value. Next player is Desiree Doué. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He won a PSG from Rennes for a pretty hefty amount. I think it's probably a solid. I don't think he'll be as pivotal as João Neves is, let's say. He's like kind of, like the next big French thing, right? That's what they're saying. I don't want to put too much pressure on the kid. He's young. I just don't want him to be compared to Mbappe. That's going to be a hefty role to take. And I think he'll be solid. I don't think he'll be too much of an important player for PSG. He'll probably be a backup, substitute in here and then, play a cup game. So I think he'll have a solid year. He won't be nothing amazing, but I think he'll do good to just keep himself level-headed and doing what he does best. Now, Euro, again, is the same situation. Another young French player that has the world at his feet, but he's still too young to be taking too much of a heavy load for the new team. I think United did very good getting both De Ligt and Euro. That way Euro doesn't have to think that he has to be the man at 18 years old. We saw the player that he is last season. He was very good. He still has some weaknesses to his game because, again, he's very young, but he got injured, so he's going to be missing out a couple of months, and he probably won't get reintroduced into the starting 11 right away immediately, but good player, but no pressure on him. I think he'll do solid, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, Endrick, this kid, I honestly don't see the hype around Endrick. I think it's another one of those Brazilian players that Real Madrid kind of just jumps the gun on, and they won't ultimately do too good. I think he'll be a flop. I don't think he's going to get much playing time at all. I think he has his expectations way too high. I don't know. I don't think he's that good of a player, and I just don't think he's going to get the starting time that he wants. And he went for quite a bit of money, so I think he'll be a flop. I don't expect too much from Endrick. I could be wrong. He could turn out to be like Vinicius. He started out really rough and then turns out to be amazing. But I just don't see that. With Vinicius, I at least kind of thought there was a player there, and then he became the player that he is now. But I just don't see that with Endrick, so he's the first flop of the tier list. Conor Gallagher, again, is another player I just don't see much of. I just see him like he's just an Energizer bunny. But that's the type of player that Atletico might want anyway, so I think he'll be solid. I think he himself as a player is nothing special, but I think he'll fit Atletico pretty well. Yeah, he's a good workhorse. He has that captain's mentality. Yeah, I think he'll do solid. Just solid, though. Third to last is Savinho, and I think he's a banger. Just from what we've been seeing in the couple of games in the Premier League, he looks great. He looks incredible. He looks like he's taking on his man. He's not scared to. He's like that real Brazilian winger that we used to know. And I think he's going to be what Doku was supposed to be last season. So I think under the tutelage of Pep, him being young, he'll only get better. I don't know. I think he'll make that winger role his own, kind of like a Maris 2.0, and I think he'll do really well. Ugarte to United, I think, is a very good transfer for United. As we can see, Casemiro is evidently not the player that he once was 2 seasons ago. Having a young player like Ugarte come in place of Casemiro is going to rejuvenize that United midfield, and I think he'll do really well. He has that, that South American swagger to him, very aggressive, very sure of himself, confident, and I think he'll do solid. And last player on the list is Osimhen. The transfer, in my opinion, is a flop because I don't like it, but just for how he's going to affect Galatasaray, it has to be a banger. I mean, he is a good player. The top clubs in the world wanted him. I think he's going to be having a good season at Galatasaray, be the main man. There's not really much to say about it. He should tear it up in the Super League. So that brings me to the end of this transfer market tier list. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you think I went too top heavy, I wasn't strict enough, or I wasn't hard enough on some of the players. Let me know who you think I got terribly wrong. The transfer market's not even over, so maybe there's going to be even more big transfers to see. So hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.